Eh?
Hi, how are you? All the best to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to the second national webinar conducted by Losters and JVVA Law Associates on the topic Bar and Barrier, a Female Advocate's Perspective. I'm Priya Kumari, the convener of this program, and I hope that at the end of this webinar, you're well informed and educated on the subject of our theme. Please note that our audio lines are muted for the webinar, and I request you all to ensure the same for the rest of the event. Please keep an eye on the chat box for constant updates regarding the attendance and Q&A round. I hope you're clear with the instructions. I'll start by giving a brief introduction about the platform. The Losters is a web startup by a group law enthusiasts from several law universities of the country. Our mission is to bring you closer to the happening in the field of law and talk about contemporary legal issues. For this national webinar, we are extremely delighted to have collaborated with JVVA Law Associates to provide us an all enriching experience on the subject. Elaborating on the theme, the webinar highlights the experiences of a woman in the legal profession. We wish to deliver this insight to the participants from a female advocate's perspective, wherein their experiences and their journey in the legal profession throwing light on the existing stereotype and hurdles they face solely because of their gender. The attempt is to raise awareness about gender bias, sexual stereotype, and any inequalities prevalent in the legal space. Doing justice to our idea, we have our esteemed speakers talking about their journey and experiences and sharing their perspective on the topic. My dear participants, I would now like to introduce you all to the guest speakers of our event. First, we have with us Advocate Nanita Thandani Sharma, advocate on record in the Honorable Supreme Court of India, empaneled as an AOR for Supreme Court Legal Services Committee for almost 25 years for now. Our second speaker is Advocate V. Santana Lakshmi, is a practicing lawyer in the Supreme Court and also partner at the JVVA Law Associates. I'm heartily grateful by their gracious presence today and that despite their busy schedule, they could devote to us their time for the webinar. Now, I present to you our first speaker for the day, Advocate Nanita Thandani Sharma. Ma'am, please allow me to give a brief introduction. Speaking of the dignitary, she is an advocate on record at the Honorable Supreme Court of India. Until 2017, Nanita ma'am was the ex officio of the Supreme Court Legal Services Committee. She currently holds the position of a mediator at the Supreme Court Mediation Center and has over 32 years of experience in the field of law. Ma'am, we're extremely grateful to have you with us. I now request you to take the forum and give us a head start on our theme.
Thank you, Ria. I'm highly privileged and honored to be a part of this webinar today. The topic today is very relevant, not only to the lady lawyers, but for women in general. Man and woman They both are equal and they play a paramount role in the creation and development of their families in particular and society in general. There is a built-in bias against women, and the struggle for equality has been one of the major concerns of the women's movement all over the world. The difference in sex and physical form denotes no difference in status. A woman complements a man and is not inferior. That should be very, very clear. The gender differences created by society hamper the overall being of the society because blocking women from participating in social, political, and economic activities can adversely affect the whole society. So, inequality is basically all over the world, and it's a crucial reality. Um, I have been practicing as an advocate since 1988, and I became an advocate on record in 1995 after passing my AOR examination. I've been practicing in all the courts, including the district forums, the national commission, the state commission, the uh, the high courts, and the Supreme Court. And however, my base has always been my Supreme Court, and where I have my own chamber. My father-in-law has my father-in-law has was an senior advocate in the Honorable Supreme Court, and my husband is also a lawyer by profession, and we are basically practicing together. I had been on the panel of the Union of India at one time, and also on the panel of Punjab State Electricity Board. Then I was enrolled as empaneled as an AOR for the Supreme Court Legal Services Committee, and then I'm also the Supreme Court has also appointed me as an amicus curiae. In 2013, I was nominated by the then Chief Justice of India as an executive member of the Supreme Court Legal Services Committee. And I was also elected as an executive member in the Supreme Court Bar Association. Now, what I believe is throughout my journey, I have always believed that whatever field one is in, or whatever profession a person is pursuing, one must contribute to society their own little ways. As we take so much from society, we must return. So to clear this debt, I have taken up many social causes and I've filed many public interest litigations involving socio and environmental issues. So that's it. I think that was a good enough introduction for me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So moving along, we have curated a list of general queries raised by our participants, and we have structured them into questions. If you allow me, I would like to present them in this domain. So, ma'am, my first question is, you have an experience for more than 32 years in this profession. Can you elaborate on the obstacles you have faced, the hurdles you had to overcome to be where you are today?
Absolutely. The journey has really not been a smooth sailing. In spite of getting into a family where my father-in-law was a senior advocate, my husband was is a lawyer, I had to face many challenges in order to establish my own identity in the profession. So when I joined the profession in '88, I wanted to start from scratch. I wanted to basically start my career from the trial courts, going to the district courts and the trial courts. However, my in-laws were really not very happy with my decision, and because they felt that the trial courts are not a very safe place for women to be in. So, however, so they actually wanted me to join my father-in-law, whose base was Supreme Court. So, on the other hand, my husband, who had also joined with me in 1988 itself, he was given a choice. to start his career from the district courts. And resultantly, the exposure that he got was completely different. It was completely different and it was denied to me. Maybe unintentionally, because they didn't really. I mean, it was a bona fide. Just wanted to protect me. And but I was deprived of an opportunity to understand the functioning of the trial courts, the lower courts, and the procedure they followed, and which I think is very necessary for every lawyer to begin with. And as a trial court practice lays down the foundation for a successful career in the profession. So this was one thing. Then I was when I was practicing in with my father-in-law under him, and while I was practicing in the Supreme Court, I had to face a number of challenges there also. Um, when the clients would come to the chamber and they wanted to discuss a case, they would explicitly, show their preference for a male lawyer. So, and would straight away go to my husband, ignoring me completely. That happened a number of times. It was happening at a very regular basis. So, which was quite discouraging for me. However, my husband, he really stood beside me as a pillar of strength. And with my patience and perseverance and hard work, I was able to crack through this gender bias. And which is absolute. It's inbuilt in a man. It's inherent in a man, and did not let it come in the way of my progress as a lawyer. So then I also faced certain issues with my staff, and till today I've been facing, just because I'm a woman. So which are called occupational hazards. So we've been employing mostly male staff during all these years. And if I would point out any shortcoming in their work, they would have ego issues, and would completely treat me differently, from my husband, and which made things very difficult for me. And as far as the work which had to be got done from them. So this was clearly a reflection of male chauvinism. This has been actually clearly a reflection of male chauvinism. Yes.
I guess family support is very crucial for oneself to excel into such a field where there is one person has to work through all. I agree with you totally, ma'am. So, ma'am, moving along, our second question talks about that have you ever seen a female advocate or intern experiencing sexual harassment at workplace in the legal profession? Do they get justice or are these cases just hushed?
Yes, I have seen a few instances. And one instance which I clearly remember is during the time when I was elected as the member of the Supreme Court Bar Association. And there was this young girl, who approached the Supreme Court Bar Association with a complaint that male, actually her colleague, male colleague, was literally stalking her. He was harassing her, and he would send her messages after messages that he would like to have friendship with her, and he would keep track of the courts that she was in. Then go and sit right next to her and pass lewd comments. And then sometimes he would reach her house also in the evenings. So this was completely, very, very scary, and it was completely unacceptable. So a subcommittee was formed by the SCBA, that is the Supreme Court Bar Association, and in which I was also a member. And I was personally very disturbed by this complaint. And tried my very best, to resolve the issue in an amicable manner. I spoke to this male member and lawyer, and I spoke with him, and I told him that over the phone, and then I called him in my chamber and tried to put some sense into his head. but it wasn't really working, you know. And then ultimately, then what we had to do was that we had to convey to him that he was hampering the dignity of a woman, and that was completely unacceptable. And if he does not mend his ways, he has to be, he has to. We have to report the matter to the police. We have no other option. So it was then that he got a little scared, and uh, he stopped stalking the young lawyer. So this was a case where we could get justice for her, you know, in that way. And the second part of your question is, I think that what did you ask? This, I think I don't remember the second part of your question. Can you please repeat?
Ma'am, the question was, ma'am, do they get justice or are these cases hushed? Like, are these cases ignored and are the girls like scared enough to report them, something like that?
No, you know, it is actually in this case, like she got justice, you know,
Yeah.
and it actually depends on the lady, you know, the woman. And to answer the second part of your question is whether these kind of cases are hushed up. I would like to only say this much, that when the girls they become determined to take their case to its logical conclusion, it all depends on the girl. So
Yeah.
if they are determined to take their case to a logical conclusion, and crave for justice for herself, it is very difficult to hush up these cases. So it all depends on the woman.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
Yes,
it.
I feel that, ma'am, you were there for her, so that is why she got an easier path for justice. If a woman is standing for a woman, then we can actually fight these cases together. And nobody is stayed alone.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
yes,
You know,
ma'am.
I would like to cite a very encouraging example over here of the Me Too movement, which
Yeah.
happened very recently, the recent past.
Yes, ma'am.
So there also, if you see, a clutch of gutsy women, they broke their silence over sexual abuse and harassment that they
Yeah.
were facing at the hands of the men, you know, at the hands of their male bosses or whatever. And this and this movement triggered in India, you know. It came from America, and then it triggered in India also, which has had far-reaching implications, you know, for workplaces and gender sensitivity
Yeah.
across the country. So a hashtag triggered a kind of revolution, you know,
Yes, ma'am.
and in which women from all walks of life, professions, they came all of them came under one roof, and they came from different cities. They became a part of this movement, and there was no formal. If you notice one thing, that there was no formal leader or a formal name or an organization, you know,
Yeah.
just a hashtag, you know, that
Yes.
comes with the power to give them a voice. So
Yeah.
this movement became actually a symbol of defiance and fight back. So this is what every woman should, if they want justice, they have to have this defiance, and they have to have that fight back attitude.
Exactly, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, moving along, my third question is on the basis of the second question. That, ma'am, can you throw light on the relevant laws in India relating to sexual harassment at workplace, the legal perspective?
Okay, so although we have a vast body of laws, you know, which exist in different countries with regard to sexual harassment, came under sexual harassment at the workplace. And but in India, you know, sexual this law, uh, the concept of sexual harassment was not really recognized, you know, till mid 90s. So it was in 1992 a landmark judgment was passed by the Honorable Supreme Court, and that was the Vishakha case, you know, Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan. If I correctly remember, it was 1997 6 SCC 241, I think. So there, for the first time, you know, sexual harassment was defined. For the first time, it was defined by the Honorable Supreme Court. So I would like to read that out to you. You
Yes,
know,
ma'am.
So it said, it defined sexual harassment as under: sexual harassment includes such unwelcome sexually determined behavior, whether directly or by implication, as A. Physical contact and advances, B. A demand or request for sexual favors, C. Sexually colored remarks, D. Showing pornography, E. Any other welcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct of a sexual nature. So, in this case, what had happened was, the facts of the case were that there was this lady called Dhanvari Devi, and she was a Sathin worker, in a women's development project in Rajasthan, the state of Rajasthan. So there, she took active part, in a campaign against child marriage. And there was a little girl who was just 1 year old, and they were getting her married, the villagers. So she raised her voice against this evil practice. You wouldn't believe what some of the villagers did to her. 5 men of the village, they raped her in front of uh, her husband, and only because she was resisting the evil practice. And then the district court, the district court acquitted all the 5 accused. So it was at that point of time that a few NGOs, they came together by the name of Vishakha, and they filed a public investigation in the Honorable Supreme Court. And the main prayer was to make workplaces for women safer. So it was held. It was a very, very it was a landmark judgment, and it was held in this case that as sexual harassment at the workplace has been held to be a violation of the fundamental rights or fundamental freedom of all women as citizens, who want to pursue the business or their profession or trade of their choices. So the Honorable Supreme Court observed again. I would again like to read this out to you. It was yes. So the Honorable Supreme Court, it observed that each such incident, this was the case of this lady, that each such incident results in violation of the fundamental rights of gender equality and the right to life and liberty. It is a clear violation of the rights under Articles 14, 15, and 21 of the Constitution. So one of the logical consequences of such an incident is also the violation of the victim's fundamental right under 19(1)(g), that is to practice any or to carry out any occupation, trade, or business. So this was a clear violation of rights equally guaranteed to women, And the Supreme Court further it also observed that every private and public sector, that it has they can be they have to be they are accountable for whatever happens in their workplaces for sexual harassment. So, so then the Supreme Court also said that these rights are absolutely. I mean, they're without. They're meaningless. They would be meaningless if these do not have any remedies attached to it. So they laid down binding guidelines in this case. And one of the guidelines was that every organization with 10 or more employees should have an internal complaints committee to address and look into these complaints of sexual harassment. So this formation of internal committees was an attempt to basically achieve equality and gender justice at all workplaces for redressal of the grievances of these women who were being harassed at these workplaces. So the judgment in Vishakha basically declared a law that sexual harassment at the workplace is a constitutional wrong, and it is an offense. It is a crime and an offense. And later, this in the year 2013, these guidelines, they were crystallized uh, into an act which is called Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplaces Act, which applied to the private sectors as well. So the prohibition of the sexual harassment at the workplace is loud and clear, under Section 3 of the Act. And also, for the first time, um, uh, uh, an enforceable remedy was created, where against private sector employers, which place an obligation on every employer of a workplace to constitute an internal committee uh, under Section 4. So, and failure to do so is an offense under Section 26 of the 2013 Act, and it invites a penalty of about 50,000 rupees. So, therefore, today we have a proper legal remedy in this act for a woman who is sexually harassed at her workplace.
Yes, ma'am. But basically, the stereotype of men can only be handled when not just by making laws but implementing them, and us ensuring that those laws are being followed. Because if something is happening in such a greater mass, and if people are there together to look for it, like the NGOs helped in the Vishaka cases, we
Yeah,
have to be that person to help people there. Exactly, ma'am.
absolutely.
Moving along, for our subject for the fourth question, the concept of equality is very subjective. There is a misconception that equality movement seeks put women at higher status. People feel that women has to be in a higher status when we are all asking them to be at the same starting line, and which is also backed by the Constitution of India. Ma'am, can you please enlighten us the Constitution provisions which safeguards the right of women to be treated equally?
Okay. So, uh, the preamble to the Constitution of India, it promises to secure all citizens equality of status and of opportunity. And the constitutional doctrine of equality is contained in Articles 14, 15, 16, 19, 1G, and 21 of the Constitution. So the right to equality before the law or equal protection of the laws uh, under Article 14, it guarantees equality for every person. And then Article 15 prohibits discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste, etc., sex. And then Article 16, it talks of equal opportunities in matters of public employment. Um, and Article 16 it prohibits discrimination on the grounds of sex in the matters of public employment. Then 19(1)(g), it states that all citizens shall have a right to practice, profess, and carry out their occupation, trade, or business of their own liking or whatever. So, hence, the gender discrimination in employment, it basically violates, if you see these constitutional provisions, it basically violates a woman's freedom to pursue her occupation freely and with dignity. And then there is Article 21 of the Constitution, which recognizes the right to live with dignity, which includes the right to livelihood also. And sexual harassment or gender bias, it basically is violative of this right to live with dignity, and um, and it has been recognized as an obstacle to full realization of the right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution of India.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I agree, ma'am. Ma'am, for the last and not the least question, ma'am, the traditional gender roles are considered the root cause of inequality and discrimination in society. Now, what do you think is the root cause of gender bias prevailing in the society?
The the root cause I feel is the it starts from the smallest unit, of society. That is the family. I feel that to give an example, in a family where there are two children, a girl and a boy, and if the family is visited by a guest, it is very natural for a parent, to call the girl and tell her to get a glass of water, or ask her to make tea for the guest, So this attitude, I feel, has to change. This must change. So we have actually made, watertight compartments for what girl must do and what a boy must do, and what a girl should not be doing or a boy should not be doing. So that this kind of ideology is it is actually this kind of attitude is based on an
Ma'am,
ideology that
this
which
is
nurtures a sense of
from College Dehradun.
superiority. It nurtures a sense of superiority over others, and it proceeds to justify such discrimination. So such a belief it contradicts. It contradicts universal human values, and I sometimes feel that a woman is has the privilege. The Almighty has given her that privilege to give birth to a child, and she brings life into the world. She nurtures the child. She brings up the child in the best possible manner that she can, And then when he grows up to be a man, it's the same child who, exclaims to her and says, "Woman, you are inferior to me." So that is completely not acceptable. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And I feel, and I totally agree with this, that our basic mindset is when a child learns a certain thing in a family and how a family is making their child grow with the stereotypical and not teaching them the whole gender bias thing. Like every work is for a boy and a girl. It's not classified. We are not born with the tag on that. Thank you, ma'am, for this very informative session.
Thank you very much. So I would just like to conclude in one line
Yes,
that
sure, ma'am.
a woman has to fight for her rights. Nobody else will fight for her rights.
Exactly.
She's the one who has to fight for her rights and for society to treat them, both men and women, at par. And we all as women need their changed. And it is beyond time that everyone learns to respect women, and instead of just objectifying them. And also, one thing which sometimes comes to my mind is that some women are ashamed of when this sexual harassment takes place with them. They are harassed in some way by a man. They feel ashamed about talking about it, or they feel embarrassed. So it is not the girl or the victim who has to feel embarrassed. It is the man who's doing all this has to be put to shame. By raising your voice against that particular person. And this is how things will change. This is how our society will change. And we have to have this courage to bring this change. And instead of just cribbing and complaining that we are not treated equally with men.
Exactly.
The onus is upon us to bring this change, I feel. Thank you,
Yes.
Ria.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And ma'am, for our next session, ma'am, we have introduced a concept that now we can have a direct conversation with the speakers and the participants for our viewers who are watching. So, ma'am, for that, we will now address the questions from the audience, which will be facilitated by my colleague Priya. So, Priya, please kindly take over.
Thank you, Ria. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Priya Ganotra, your moderator for the day, for the question answer session with the participants. Nanita ma'am, I thank you for providing us with a very enriching experience. And now I would like to proceed with the audience question answer session. So anyone who has questions, please raise your hands. Okay, we have a question from Shrishti Sinha. Shrishti, ma'am, please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Good morning, ma'am. My question is, being a female advocate, do you ever feel the pressure on yourself to prove your competency in the court? Like,
Initially, yes, when I had to face a lot of struggles, but now I don't. It just comes very naturally to me, and with God's grace, I know what I have. I know my case, and I am confident, and I present my case by reading it thoroughly, and that's what I said in my earlier, that this is what it is. We have to prove our capability to ourselves, not to others. And that can only come when we really work hard and are devoted towards our work, and forget about what's happening around you and how people are behaving with you. You just need to concentrate on your what is you need to focus on what you want to become in life, so when that comes, yes, you cannot let people walk all over you, of course, and there you have to raise your voice. But otherwise, if you start thinking what the others are doing to you, and they're trying to put you down or whatever, then you cannot progress in life. So it's very important to be concentrating and having a focus on your whatever work you're doing in life. I hope I answered it to your satisfaction.
yes, ma'am.
Shishni?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Well,
Thank you, ma'am.
Our
Well-
next question is from Miss Suman Lata. Ma'am, please unmute yourself and ask a question.
You see, I am using the telephone of my wife. So
Sorry, sir.
I am PS Shanta. I
Yes,
must first appreciate the speaker who has shared a very holistic concept of bringing the issue from discrimination against women to the balance between genders, so that gender becomes a non-issue ultimately. It is only during this process that our society is in the process of evolving. Having said that, I would like to quote from Upanishad. It has been said that yatra naryastu pujyante ramante tatre devta, which means that a society where women are respected, gods rejoice and they stay only at such places. So any society that wishes to reach its epitome, then it has to recognize, not as a matter of granting a right to anybody, but recognized within itself a system whereby every component of the system, regardless of gender,
absolutely.
is a soul that can actualize herself in her widest possible spectrum based upon the karma of the previous incarnations and all.
Absolutely.
While we look at this utopian concept, yet our society is headed in that direction. It's a very good thing. But for women to, in the profession, when they come forward and they want to actualize their expression of being received well by those who have to sit in judgment over the thoughts expressed by them on the question of civil liberties and constitutional rights, the process still needs to warm up. There has to be the initiation of a system whereby the opportunity to actualize has to come from within the system, not as a matter of being granted by a particular bench, or by a particular authority. In this regard, I would suggest that the Bar Council of India, as well as the Bar Council of various states, your organization should take up sensitization programs with this body, because unless we get to ensure that our Bar Council starts working on this at the academic level, the change would be very distant and far away. But to expedite the process, the lines which your speaker has suggested this afternoon is the best way to go. And I'm sure you people will put together and create a source from where the cherished exposition of the desired way to achieve a balanced social interactive platform can be taken to its logical conclusion. So that would be my suggestion, and I really appreciate this initiative taken by all of you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chawla.
We have a next question from Mr. Shabir Hussain. Sir, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
This is Shabir Hussain from Kashmir. So I have a question that why people suppress the rights of women. So how we can empower women so that she will get all the rights as men are getting in the society.
See, empowering of the right woman is already very empowered, I feel, you know. But yes, looking at the way society treats her sometimes, empowering of she can do, you know, as far as her whatever she is pursuing in life, that has to be done to the best of her ability. Then she can carry on with many things which for other women, you know, like the rights of other women she can take care of. Automatically she'll also get empowered. So there are different ways of empowering, you know, and there are, for example, you know, in a where a girl child is not that educated, you know, she can educate herself and become empowered. So it depends on the circumstances that the child is in, or the woman is in, that she needs to progress in life. To you know, there are so many now, so much of violence against women. She can empower herself by learning martial arts, or she can, you know, these are the things that she can do, you know, to empower herself. So it depends on what situation you are in, and what circumstances you are in, and what kind of environment you are in, where you want to progress in life as a human being, because you have the same emotions, you have the same feelings as a man, you know. Everything is the same. It's just the physical structure is different, you know. It's nothing. So if you if both of them like, you know, sometimes I also feel, you know, that why a man is always told that he's not supposed to cry, you know. Why can't a man cry? He also has emotions pent inside him, so he can cry, you know. He can bring out those emotions. So discriminate, yeah. So she has to see how she progresses in life, and in what way she can empower herself according to her circumstances. She has to do that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Hussain.
Thank you, Mr. Shabir. Ma'am, we have a question from Mr. Ankur Kumar Pandey. Sir, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, good morning.
Ma'am, my question is that one of the most remarkable criticism of the Criminal Amendment Act 2013 is its failure to criminalize marital rape. That is one of the serious problems to be noticed against women. Criminalizing marital rape would allow women to make claims of rape, since rape within marriage was difficult to prove. The remedy suggested by saviors of the marriage are divorce, or prosecution for cruelty, but not for rape.
I didn't
However,
understand the question. Yeah, okay.
yeah, ma'am. Ma'am, can I repeat once
Yeah,
again?
please repeat. No, the last part of it. What did you say?
Ma'am, one of the most remarkable criticism of the act is its failure to criminalize marital rape. That is one of the most serious problem to be noticed against women. Criminalizing marital rape would allow women to make claims for rape. Since rape within marriage was difficult to prove, the remedy suggested by the saviors of marriage is divorce or prosecution for cruelty, but not for rape. However, such justification ignore the very specific harms induced by the crime of rape, which violates a woman's physical integrity and sexual autonomy by forcing her to submit to unwanted intercourse.
So what do you want me to answer to this question?
Ma'am, just I want to know that, ma'am, why it's the Criminal Amendment Act 2013 was failure to criminalize marital rape.
See, I think at that time, like this Vishakha case when it came up, and after which this act was brought in. At that time, the most important issue that was faced by society was with regard to sexual harassment. So
Yeah, ma'am.
this issue was not there. Now we have started to hear all these things. So 2013 was long back. We are in 2020. So maybe
Yeah.
some other act may come up, and a woman, if she wants to bring this grievance to the courts, she can bring it to those courts, and maybe an act which where even I agree with you that if a woman is not interested in sex, then even she should have the liberty to say no. So I'm sure this will also come up in the future years. Some act will
Ma'am,
come.
uh,
But in the
ma'am,
2013,
one
this was really
question.
not the issue. This was really not the issue. The issue was only sexual harassment at workplaces.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Ankur. We will now proceed with the next question from Ms. Momita. Ma'am, please unmute yourself and ask your question. I will recite her question to you. Sometimes people attack very easily to those who are working in a government position. Like,
Hello.
okay. Yes, Momita, ma'am, please go ahead.
Hello. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Yes.
Ma'am, I am working in a government aided college. Myself, Momita Mandal. I'm in Shiliguri College. So
Yes.
myself faces sometimes that people harasses us that very easily because we are a government employee. They can make us very easily make us very easily harass.
Yeah.
So how can we face these types of issues? Because
So
I'm
you
here,
have this act to your rescue. This
how can because we are employee, no, government employee. So we
doesn't matter.
our
This is applicable to both public as well as private sectors.
yes, ma'am. Yes.
And I'm sure you must be having an internal complaint committee in your this workplace.
Institution. Yes.
So you can file a complaint over there, write a complaint, and give it to them.
No,
And
ma'am.
make sure
Sometimes
that they address your grievances.
sometimes domestic problems related goes to the institution also. So how can we face this?
I'm sorry. Say it again,
Ma'am?
please.
Yes, ma'am. Sometimes our home related issues goes to the institutions also, like domestic problems, violence, maid problems, servants problems, these also.
Okay. So what is that got to do with your issue at the workplace?
They actually want to bring down our fame or as well as our impression. So how can we handle this? Because our working image also hampered by these situations.
Yeah, but your question initially was that if you are being harassed, where should you go and what should you do? So you cannot mix issues like this and saying that if there was a domestic problem and they would give complaints with regard to that to your organization. That is not the problem over here. We cannot mix issues, right?
Yes. My question is that.
You have to, whatever is happening in your workplace, you have a right to make a complaint to the internal complaint committee, and there let them address your grievances.
Okay, ma'am.
And as far as your domestic things are concerned, that is that's a completely different matter, for which the right of.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am. I feel so that these are two
separate matters.
Separate matters. So how could one mix only because
one cannot justify the act of the person who's trying to sexually harass you by saying that yes, this woman has a domestic case against somebody, and they have at home. The person cannot really mix issues like this.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes.
You have a right to complain to the internal complaints committee, and you have a right to take redressal of your grievances. This is your right, an independent right, nothing to do with your family and nothing to do with whatever is happening at home and whatever complaints are lodging with the organization.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, participants, for the question. Thank you, ma'am, for addressing them and dealing all the questions.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
In the end, if any of the questions are not been dealt, we'll have a session in the end. So for that, now we'll move along and we'll move on to our second speaker. So for our second speaker, we have Advocate V. Santhana Lakshmi with us. Ma'am, please allow me to give a small introduction. Speaking of the dignitary, she's an advocate practicing in Honorable Supreme Court of India. In her 9 years of experience, Lakshmi ma'am has had a remarkable experience in criminal and corporate litigation. She's the partner of JVVL Law Associates and is currently pursuing her second LLM in banking and insurance laws. Ma'am, we are extremely delighted to have you with us. I now request you to take the forum and enlighten us.
Yes. A warm good afternoon to each and everyone present in this webinar, and a special welcome to my friend Namita ma'am. Very nice speech it was, and it was a very encouraging speech, and we have to learn more things from you. And as per my talk, I am basically from South India. After my marriage, my husband is an advocate. He is a AOR. So I have opportunity to, I came to Delhi and had an opportunity to go to courts after my marriage. So basically I was a BCom student, commerce student, and I don't have any law background. So I used to work with my husband, and that made my interest to enter into the law profession. So I did my law after seeing my husband work and his experience. And when I decided to law, I had a boy child. So he was 10 months at the time. My husband was encouraging me, if you are interested in this profession, I can go forward. So in Delhi, I got an admission in Lloyd Law College, and I started studying law. While starting my study also, I had a problem in language, Hindi. And it is a very comfortable, easy language, which can be easily learned by everyone if we are concentrated. And basically, a person want to learn a language, they can learn if they hear the language for 90 days, which I practiced with my husband help, and my son was very small, and without knowing that he is helping his mother to become a law graduate, he also helped me. So this, I have done my law in Lloyd Law College, which was in Noida, and they also encouraged me, and my full support was there with my family, especially my husband and my son. Then in 2010, I cleared my law and started in 2011. In 2011 to practice after clearing my bar exam. So I decided to start my practice with a woman lawyer, senior, which I discussed with my husband, and he encouraged me. And at that time of point, I came to meet Rajdeepa Begura. He is an advocate in Delhi High Court. And we had a conversation, and ma'am was welcoming me to her office to learn the practice, to do my practice and learn the practical part of the law. So in 2011, I started my first training as practice with Rajdeepa Begura, and ma'am was very nice to me, and she gave a good space to me, where we were two women working there. One of my colleagues, her name is Divya. She was working there, and my ma'am was very helpful to us, and she gave us a special importance, attention to our practice. And also, yes, we had 3 men with us, advocate. They are senior to us, 2 years like that. And also 1 year, Divya was 1 year senior to me. So we were working together in that office. It is a chamber. I can remember the chamber number also. It is 39, chamber 39. And we used to go there, and I started my practice in Delhi High Court, which made me more happy. So now I become a lawyer, so I'm going to practice, and what I thought was I have to practice with a woman. So I achieved that. The problem which I faced is my son is only 10 months. My husband is fully supporting me, but then also as a mother, I can spend only less part of time of my in profession, my time in the profession, which ma'am also encouraged me. Rajdeepa Begura also encouraged me, but even then there an issue came. The men advocates who were practicing with us, they used to tell, you are giving more preference to women, and you're giving more liberty. You are very liberty with Lakshmi ma'am, and she is going earlier. And ma'am was practicing fully on criminal side. And at that point of time, she was the assistant public prosecutor in Delhi High Court. So ma'am have encouraged me to sit with me in court and observe everything, each and every cases, how it is handled, how it is argued like that. So I had an opportunity to sit with ma'am and hear the court hearings. Even at that point of time, the justice, the ma'am was APP in court where Suresh Kurt was the justice. So he also used to observe us, and she used to tell that she is very good in observing things and to encourage women advocates. And she, sir also, Justice Suresh Kurt also used to encourage me. And as per this situation, I worked for 2 years in High Court with ma'am, with her help. And then the timing was not suitable to me, because usually in APP office, all the cases will come only after 7 o'clock. The cases which is allotted to them, it will come. So I don't have time to spend after 5:30. So this affected the office where ma'am was encouraging only, but I felt that I should come out. So 2 years I practiced in High Court. Then I started my practice with my husband. He is an advocate on record in Supreme Court. His name is A. Vinayagam Balan. In his chamber, I started my practice. There I was very comfortable because no language problem was there. And I have learned practically also and theoretically also with my husband in Supreme Court while I was practicing. So, and my husband used to encourage me to do matters in Supreme Court. So I had a good opportunity to do matters in Supreme Court also, where I was given an adjournment matter or letter circulated matter. So there even judges also encouraged us as a woman. In my part of experience, judges also encourage. You can do this matter. You will do this matter. We are ready to hear you. So it was a good opportunity. I had so many good opportunity in Supreme Court where I have appeared and I have argued matters. And in this practice was going till 2017-18, where I thought I have to learn more. So I got an opportunity to work in a corporate law firm. So I joined the firm in 2018. So there it was a totally different experience. First, my part of life where I practiced was criminal law fully. And then I came to Supreme Court where the practice itself differed. And then I have came across to the law firm, corporate law firm. But corporate law firm, fortunately, money-minded firms. I'm not blaming anybody, but I'm telling the fact which I experienced. And there also, again, we have to fight with time. Being a woman, after getting married, after having a child, we have to focus everything with us. Multitask working. We have to become a multitask worker. Even then also my son is helping me, my husband is helping me. Then also we have to fight with time. Beyond our matter, today there will be 2 matters, 3 matters. In law firms, they will give us a file and we have to do the matters. And we have to travel also. Where I work, we have to travel also. We cannot sit in one court and work. And also in one way, it was a plus point. We can go to each and district court, like tribunals and high court and even in Supreme Court. But in law firms, also I had a problem. To being a woman, they used to see our timing. As women, even if we finish our work also, in law firms, we have to stay till each and everyone goes. And I had a good practice in a law firm. And also my barrier was also because of timing, and we have to stay there 7 into 24 hours in law firm for our work, which my full self, with my family support, I fully given my time for working. And then I worked there for 1.5 years. Now I have came back and started my new company, JVVL, and I am part in that. This is my short biopic. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, we have also structured a few questions that if you would like to address them. So, ma'am, starting with our very first question, have you ever been denied a promotion or a pay raise or a training opportunity which was easily offered to a male colleague who was less qualified or experienced than you?
Yes, coming to this question, in my personal life till date, I have not denied by, as because of I am woman, I was not denied anywhere. But one of my friend where I worked in High Court, that time she was given, she was denied because she is a woman. And the part is that she cannot spend her time. So salary was less for her. Each and everything was there. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. And because the whole gender paradox which is there, you can't
Yes.
judge a person as a male or a female. You need to see the qualification.
Sure.
Any type of people is what they need to work on.
Sure.
Moving along to our very second question, ma'am. It is
Yes.
argued that traditional gender roles and personal beliefs lead to social disparity in judicial decisions, even if there is a good intention. Do you think policy reforms in decision-making procedure can erase decision-making biases?
See, for this question, see, policy, law, everything is made for people and by the people. So policy will not restrict for gender purpose.
Yeah.
Which is a good policy, so we can follow it. And because of the gender, we cannot tell policy will restrict it.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, as you talked about your motherhood and your story with your child and as a working advocate, so ma'am, was motherhood ever used as an argument or excuse for assuming your work prioritization? Were you ever made to feel like your identity as a mother could hinder your professional life?
No, I was very proud to tell my own myself. But there are people, women affected by this point of motherhood, but according to me, it is not affected.
Yeah.
And where I worked also, I came across with the women who are mother, family, and they are very intelligently and brilliantly tackling both the family and their profession and shining very well. I can give good examples also.
Yes, ma'am.
Even our Nanita ma'am is one example.
Yeah, exactly. And
in front of us.
Yes, ma'am. For such things, we do need our family support. That bring up a child, it's not the only responsibility of a mother, but even the father, even the family together. And if everyone works, so I guess such paradigms can be changed. So, ma'am, moving along to our last but not the very least question, ma'am, very particular. In June 2020, a Karnataka High Court judge remarked that in a specific case, the rape victim asked to sleep after the crime is unbecoming of a woman, and the bail plea of the accused was allowed. The statement garnered criticism from lawyers and students all over India. Do you think that sometimes the justice system poses a hindrance to its development? What is your opinion in the matter?
See, according to me, a rape happened and the victim has given a complaint. So we have to see on her viewpoint also. And we should not, according to me, we cannot criticize what has happened.
Yeah. Yes,
and we have to discuss according to the, because when even she as a woman, she has suffered and she came out and she is telling everything this has happened. So we should not criticize, we have to try to help her.
Yes, ma'am, and our encouragement to not be silent, because the biggest crime is to be silent. If a person raises its voice, that is a mark of a strong woman.
Yes.
So, ma'am, moving along, ma'am, that was a great conversation with you. So, ma'am, moving along, we would now like to address the questions from the audience. Priya, kindly take over for that.
Thank you, Ria. Lakshmi ma'am, that was a very enriching experience for all of us. Now we would proceed with the next segment, which is a question answer segment with the participants. If any participant has any question from our second speaker, please raise your hand. We have a question from Mr. Mohammad Yahaha. Sir, please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good
My
afternoon, sir.
question, I am Saeed Mohammed Yahya, advocate. My question is that uh, even we have many legislations like the Criminal Law Amendment Act in 2013, and before that, Vishaka case and sexual law, amendment, this laws. But my point is that we have to transform the mind of the people. So because even if somebody got jailed because he was indulged in some sexual activity, but we have to transform the mind of the people first. So because if we see that many criminal juries have said that there should be transformation. The criminal can be transformed within the society. So how to transform the mind of set of the people who, because whenever a lady, a working lady, whenever there is a working lady, there is definitely a mindset behind in the mind of people that why is she driving, why is she working, she should be in her house, and she should take care of her house, why is she out. So how can we transform this mindset of the people?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Actually, see, we cannot change anybody's mind. One thing. And second thing is we have to fight. Whichever part, not only for working women, each and every part, this is happening for women. So we have to fight, and we have to work out in such a manner that the laws and everywhere there is one professor, one woman lawyer, sorry, one woman professor have asked to Namita ma'am, I had a problem. Ma'am told there is a committee in your institute itself. So women has to come forward and speak frankly. First of all, self-fighting should be there for the problem, whichever they face. And then they have to go and give a complaint, or give a complaint to the institute or committee, which are they under. So there are
Okay.
people to take care of this, and as we all are here, we all should support. So this will not happen in future. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. We next have a question from Ms. Panav Gyota. Ma'am, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi. Great session. So I was wondering how you think we can help a woman victim of domestic violence to come forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I am not getting your question.
I asked how you think we can help a woman victim of domestic violence to come forward.
See, we can see whatever it is for violence, domestic violence. The girl has to be prepared. The woman has to be prepared that I have to fight for this and come out. And she can seek the helps like advocates, and also the friends. There will be friends, and there are some common women's committees are there, and trust is also there, and always women's advocates are there. So they can come forward. First of all, they have to make their mind that I should come out from this domestic violence, and then they can go to the person, a right person, for example, and right advocate, and they can speak there, speak out. All first of all, according to me, first of all, they have to fight for themselves. If they cannot, then they have to come forward, and they should take the help of the advocates and committees, trustees. Hello. Hello.
We have a next question from Ms. Shivangi Sinha. Ma'am, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Ms. Shivangi. This is Ms. Shivangi Mehrotra. Ma'am, please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Oh, hi. Hello. Good afternoon,
Hello.
ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, my question is that do you think is it tougher for female advocates to open offices, chambers, firms in their name?
No, not at all. We can open firm, office. If you are confident, everybody will come and help you. It is not a tough. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a next question from Ms. Indra Unnayar. Ma'am, please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Thank you, first of all, for this very enlightening discussion, and also thank you for taking up this important matter. I would like to address this question to both the speakers. Do you observe subtler impacts of gender bias in courts, in terms of treatment of women during the cases, also the judgments? Very often judges and lawyers are not even aware of the biases we carry. We are only human. But there are repeated reflections in judgments and their treatment. So how do you believe that these can be addressed? I'd be grateful if both of you please responded to this. Thank you. I'm also a lawyer, by the way.
Welcome, Indra. I will ask Namita ma'am to address first, then I will come. Please, ma'am, join us.
So your question is that there is the judgments of the courts, they reflect gender bias, and how do we address this? This is what you're asking?
That's right. And also the way women are treated. For example, you have a domestic violence case. First, you have to justify that the case is not false. And the woman is almost treated as herself a criminal for having brought this up to the court. We hear statements like, she's such a seasonal litigant. What is this? Why have you filed so many cases? So these types of things. And sometimes you don't even get reliefs till they say that abhi kuch chot to nahi lagi hai. So, even if you have got 1 or 2 thappads, so what? So I'm just saying, do you have any suggestions for addressing these types of biases? I'd be very grateful to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
So I think whatever is, written in the petitions that people file, for example, there's a Domestic Violence Act, under which a person can go to the courts and take redressal. So when that has to be, whatever the statements that have been that have been taken in the petitions, that has to be substantiated by evidence. And if the person has been able to do that, I don't think there should be any gender bias as far as the judges are concerned. So evidence is very important. It is not just, you make bold allegations and you come to the court and you, make petitions and you file them in the court, and the courts will say, okay, we agree with whatever you are saying. All that has to be substantiated with evidence.
Yeah.
So then there doesn't arise any question of gender bias in those cases, where a woman is able to substantiate her case with evidence.
Okay, so you feel that when there is evidence, there is no bias? Is that your
I'm sure there wouldn't be, because it's a case which is standing on its own legs when you place the evidence on record, and you're able to substantiate whatever you are saying with that evidence.
Actually, we've had experience to the contrary. We've put solid evidence, whether it's telephone calls or medical records, etc. But very often, the way the courts see, the situation, it's more like, oh God, here's, there's another case where this person is coming, and it's more like there's a big record. I have to deal with this, and it's not really seen with the compassion that the case necessarily deserves. And I feel it's a lot because of the inherent bias. They don't mean to do it deliberately, maybe, or maybe they do, but very often there's also an underlying bias, that after all, what's the big deal? A few slaps here and there, what is so we've seen that. So, but you feel that that is not the case. So then, okay.
No, I don't think so. He's really a good judge. I don't think that bias, gender bias, should come in the way, and while passing his judgment. So I think, but then again, depends on, because judges are also human beings, as you say, they may be, they have these inherent biases in them. But if he's a good judge, I don't think he can let these biases come in the way of his passing his judgments. And this is human, we all are human beings before we are judges and lawyers or whatever, So there may be people who are biased already. I'm not saying that. You may be correct also, but
any thoughts on institutional sensitization, like ongoing sensitization? For example, you gave a very nice example of, when we are kids, the young girls or women are asked to go to the kitchen to serve the tea. Very seldom do you ask the boy. So, these are things that are played out in the workplace, etc. So any thoughts on sensitization through school, college, even in courts, etc., etc.?
Of course. Sensitization should take place right from the beginning, Like I have a son now, he's 19 years old, and I feel that I have treated him, he's the only child that I have, but I've always, he came up with, one day he just came up to me and he says, Ma, he's a football player. So he says, Ma, I was playing and these girls came and they also wanted to play, So, and the rest of the children, they didn't allow these girls, two girls, to play with him. So then I told him, I said, this is completely unacceptable. You cannot do this. If she wants, the girls want to play, you must respect that and make them play. So I think it starts from home completely. I really think that where a mother or a father, they instill values in the child, saying that there is nothing like you're a boy or you're a girl, you just are human beings, both of you, and you have to be treated at par with each other. And if she wants to pursue something which is completely boys, this thing, for example, I remember when Shivansh, my son, was just hardly 3 or 4 years old. And one of my friends came, she had 2 daughters, and she came to my house, and the daughters had about 2-3 dolls with them, and they wanted to play with the dolls, So then when Shivansh had never seen a doll, my son had never seen a doll. So later, he kept telling me that I want that doll. I also want to play. Market, and I bought a doll for him, and I gave it to him to play. And he was feeding the doll, and he was giving her a bath. So just 3 or 4-year-old child. And my friend was like very, very disturbed, and she says, "How come you did that to? He's a son. He's a boy, and why are you doing this?" And I said, "Why can't a boy play with a doll? What is wrong in that? If he wanted to play with a doll, I would. I don't think there is anything wrong with that." And it is only making him sensitive in nature, and looking after the doll. And so I don't think, I think it really starts from home, how you, and then I always, from the very beginning, I taught him how to make rotis, because I know that he will become independent when, supposing he finishes with his school and colleges. It is he who's going to suffer with all that, going out and eating hostel food or whatever. So I want him to be independent. It is not that only a woman's domain is cooking. Cooking is only her domain. It is not that at all. I feel that a man can be the best. Men are best cooks in the world. So I would like him to just be independent and learn cooking, because it's knowledge. You're gaining knowledge, in a different field. So nothing to do with that. Oh, only women are supposed to cook. Even a man can cook. What's the harm in that? The same way, even a woman can play football. Even a woman can fly a plane. It doesn't really matter. I feel we must, from the very beginning, treat our boys, that tell them that you have to, no matter what happens, you have to respect a woman. And this is what he did. The next day he went to these boys, 3-4 boys, and he said, no, why shouldn't we let these girls play with us? And he did it, and the girls played, and they called me up and they said thank you to me, So I think it is just that we bring out all these differences, as human beings, and as parents, I think it's our greatest duty to look after our children in a very unbiased fashion.
Thank you for
So
sharing.
I hope I could answer your query.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yes, Indra, I'm coming to your point. See, when I can you hear me?
Yes.
Actually, Indra, as you were also an advocate, we will be in our practice, we will come to have so many experience. According to my knowledge and from my experience, I want to share is that no judges were hesitating. They were voluntarily encouraging the women advocates. Only see if the woman advocate or men advocate, whoever it is, if they have not prepared with the matter or they are not able to answer them, then only there will be a shouting or there will be a hesitating from the judges. Otherwise, normally every judges used to help woman lawyer than a men lawyer advocates. As ma'am told, nowadays everywhere women and men are equally given preference, and respect is given to women also. Anything I want to tell you, Indra?
No, thanks. No, I meant the the women clients, really, the litigants. I was talking about that.
Okay.
Because my experience has been, that we represent a lot of vulnerable groups. So we represent women, we represent street vendors, juggi dwellers, etc. And I have often seen that there are very, very good judges as well. But if there, they often carry this prejudice that perhaps it's a false case, or this is a woman who files multiple cases. If the other side simply says, oh, she has filed 3 cases, straight away she's branded as a seasonal litigant, so to speak, and they just stop listening. So I was just thinking, it's not a sin. I mean, everybody sees bias as a sin. We all carry biases. It's something that is inescapable. There's so many experiments that are done as well to show that we do carry biases. I was just wondering whether there's something we can do in a compassionate way to have, institutional sensitization of judges, lawyers, etc. Because even in cross-examination of women, very often the first thing is they do a character assassination. The issue could be to do with domestic violence, but the first thing they'll try to show is the standard pleas by the man's side, which is that, oh, she's a loose character, or, that she does kitch with the domestic staff, or that she does kitch with the in-laws. It's just to completely undermine her case. So I was just trying to ask whether we can have some kind of an effort, like Anita very nicely pointed out that, she's already started on the home front, telling sometimes we can just take those steps that can be life altering for her son, for example. Similarly, the institutional level where they've not had the benefit, those people, of having a parent like that, can we try to work, not by in a blaming way, but just to support one another to come out of the kind of biases that we've grown. After all, we are in an environment where there is bias. There is patriarchy. There's no running away from that. So that's why I was just asking that. So I'm really grateful for the sharing by both of you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Indra.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lakshmi ma'am, for addressing all the questions. I am so glad that we had a very interactive Q&A session with all of you. We now will proceed with the end of the webinar. Priya, please take the forum.
Thank you, Priya. So here we are at the end of the webinar. At the end, I would just like to conclude that the cause that we are fighting on, the cause we are talking about, can only be solved when we are all together. We're all together and we are not silent on the subject. The reforms, the steps which are taken by girls today, if we support it, if we are all together in this, then I guess no stereotype or no hurdle can stop us from being something that we aspire to. So, on the behalf of the entire team of Losters, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all our speakers for gracing our event. We are grateful to you for sharing with us your findings and opinions today. I also thank all the participants for joining us today and making this event a success. We hope that you continue to be a part of the Losters family and join us in future events and webinars also. Hope to see you all again. Thank you. I would like to end this program by quoting loyal Jack Lehman. Never stop learning, for when we stop learning, we stop growing. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.